This is a serious question, please don't hate me for this, but do I need to read Lord of the Rings?
Absolutely do not. In fact, I recommend you don't, at least for a while. Let me explain. For those that are new, hi, I'm Don. My entire channel is about the Lord of the Rings, and the question I get asked the most is, do I need to read the books before this Lord of the Rings TV show comes out? And the answer is 100% no. Here's why. The TV show is going to make a lot of changes, and that's fine. It's an adaptation of a book to a TV show. But one, the books are a little bit harder to understand because they're written in a bit lofty prose, and two, if you do read the books, you're always going to be comparing the things that you read in the books to what happens in the TV show. Now, for people like me, that's not going to affect my enjoyment of the TV show, but you by no means need to read the books in order to enjoy or be part of the Tolkien community. Drop a follow if you want more Lord of the Rings content. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Yeah, Wormtongue might eat people. Here's the relevant passage, and then I'm going to ask a very pertinent question. This is Saruman speaking. Worm killed your chief, poor little fellow. Your nice little boss. Didn't you, Worm? Stabbed him in his sleep, I believe. Buried him, I hope. The worm has been very hungry lately. Now, at this point in the book, Saruman has invaded the Shire with Wormtongue, tried to take it over, but the hobbits have won. They have kicked Saruman out. They're literally showing him the road. But they say to Wormtongue, hey, no, you don't have to go with him. Stay with us. This guy's been tricking you the entire time. But Saruman doesn't want to lose Wormtongue. So would he tell the hobbits that Wormtongue eats people to keep them safe? Or would he tell the hobbits that Wormtongue eats people so that Wormtongue will never feel safe with the hobbits because they know his secret? Food for thought.
Every time we have a guest on, it gets more and more chaotic, I swear.
You know what your mistake was? You got
What?
the queers involved. And,
I just kinda wish you were gay.
Whose horse is that?
Mystery that you desperately need solved that keeps you up late at night? Where was Gondor?
They were in Osgiliath. You're welcome.
Interview with a Vampire and Lord of the Rings take place in the same universe.
Welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. The original video has a great pun joke in it, but there are actually vampires in Middle-earth. Let me explain. The first vampire is named Thurin Gwethil, and the second is actually Sauron in bat form. And what's really cool about this is the vampires are actually on the same power level as the Balrogs and the Wizards. They're a creature type in Tolkien's universe known as a Maya. Think of them like a really powerful spirit, but not quite a god. Unfortunately, we don't get too much of like an origin story for where they came from, but they do exist in Middle-earth. Follow for more Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts.
At the end of Lord of the Rings, when Frodo buggers off on that lovely boat, he's actually committing suicide.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. So that's not quite right. Let me explain. This is by no means an attack on the person that made that video, because I think Peter Jackson did make the intention to be a sort of symbolic passing on for Frodo. But J.R.R. Tolkien did in fact make a place where Frodo, Bilbo, and Gandalf go to on that boat at the end of Return of the King. It's another continent named Valinor, or the Undying Lands. But you can only get there with some really fancy elf magic through a place called the Straight Road. Think the Bifrost from the Thor movies. Because Middle-earth and Valinor used to be on the same flat plane of existence before the god in Tolkien's universe, Eru, made the world round. The Undying Lands didn't follow the curve, it stayed on that same flat plane, so the only way you can get there is through this magical thing, the Bifrost basically, called the Straight Road. So no, Frodo doesn't pass away with Gandalf, Bilbo, and the rest of the elves, he's more, going to paradise for the rest of his life. Follow for more Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts.
Let's settle this once and for all. Why didn't the Fellowship take the Eagles to Mordor? Number one, the Eagles are not a taxi service. Anytime they're carrying Gandalf, it's a personal favor. Number two, they would have been seen. The Fellowship want to destroy the ring in secret, and flying on the backs of giant birds would not have been very secret, even if they didn't go all the way to Mordor. But let's say they do go all the way to Mordor on the backs of the giant eagles, they would be shot by arrows immediately and taken down. But let's say we get out of bowshot and fly really high. Well, guess what? The Nazgul have a bunch of flying lizards that they can then swoop down on and defeat the eagles, no problem. But the main reason that nobody talks about is that the eagles can be tempted by the ring. And do you really want a giant bird overlord ruling over Middle-earth? Follow for more Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts.
Trigger a Lord of the Rings fan in one sentence or less.
Frodo and not be affected by the ring means the ring doesn't understand transitive property.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Fact. The One Ring of Power actually does understand the transitive property. Let me explain. The One Ring is essentially going to tempt anybody who is around it, but it's a question of how strong their mental capacity is to resist it. When Sam takes the ring from Frodo in the book, he actually uses it once. The ring tempts him by saying, you see Mordor all around you? You could turn it into a garden. Sam has no desire for power. Oh, hi, thank you. Hi. Sam has no desire for power. He just wants the world to be a peaceful place, whereas somebody like Boromir, who is tempted by the ring, wants to use that ring to become a really powerful ruler. That can't be comfortable for you. Long story short, everybody is eventually going to get tempted by the ring. If you were to tape the ring to an animal, the person carrying the animal would still try and take it. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. This video is going to cover everything that didn't quite work for me in The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 1. There will be spoilers. Number 1, the whole mystery box storytelling idea was cool in concept, but didn't quite work for me, and it felt like it got dragged on too long. The question of who is the stranger, who is Adar, where is Sauron, who is this Halbrand guy, all of that felt a little bit unnecessary, and I feel like it would have been a little bit stronger had we gotten all of those reveals in the first 2 episodes. If you want more information about how I feel about this, Google the phrase Chekhov's gun. It's a storytelling technique that I think really would have worked in this TV show. Number 2 is the pacing. I think that this show crafted some beautiful individual scenes, but the overall story felt a little bit disjointed. The best example of this is the Harfoot plotline. It felt like the show was spinning its wheels and we got the same plot every episode. A Harfoots would be in trouble, the stranger would either fix things or make it worse with his magic, and then the village of Harfoots would just feel a certain way about it, and that went on for a few episodes. Number 3 is the sense of scale for this TV show. I think we needed to know exactly where everybody was at once, and they did that in the first few episodes with their giant map. But 1, they didn't have a wide shot of that map, and we stopped getting that map after a few episodes. I really feel like they need to bring that back and hone in on that so that we know where everybody is. While I have had the pleasure of meeting all of these actors, I do think that there are probably a few too many characters, especially in the Numenor plotline. Numenor plot itself could be its own TV show, Game of Thrones style. But to take place in this whole overarching world of Middle-earth, it feels like it needed to have a bit more gravitas, and after the last few episodes, we barely saw Numenor at all, but it's going to be a major player later on. I understand where they were trying to go with the whole this season 1 is going to be set up so that things can be lost because we sort of know what's going to happen later on if you've seen the movies. But it felt like we probably could have gotten a little bit more in terms of like content and character development. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments section down below and ways that season 2 could possibly improve. And make sure you follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. This is my review for The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Season 1. I really like this show, and I think we have a lot of potential for Season 2. By far my favorite part was the Doran, Disa, Elrond scenes in Moria. I think those 3 absolutely hit every scene they're in with great chemistry. One of my other favorite characters was Ismael Cruz Cordova playing Arondir. He absolutely blew away all expectations I had. One of the places I think this show really succeeds is the cinematography and the music. Howard Shore and Bear McCreary did a phenomenal job. Though one thing I'm hoping they improve on is the overall plot and the story. Some of it seemed really disjointed in certain places and just didn't work for me. And even though they made it up for the show, I do like where they are taking Galadriel's story. I thought her arc this season was very well done. I'll have more videos coming out later about spoiler-related things, but for now, if you haven't watched the TV show and you're looking to try it out, I'd say, yeah, give it a shot. It's definitely worth it.
No, we haven't gone far enough.
That's my comment.
How many cans of ABC SpaghettiOs would it take
No!
to write the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy?
No! Oh, are you gonna do this? Are you really doing this?
First, we find the average distribution of letters in a can of SpaghettiOs.
Oh my god.
Then we upload that data to a program that converts books to SpaghettiOs.
It's a
The
program?
average letters in a can of SpaghettiOs with O's in the lead at 441.
That makes sense.
Now we're going to count all the letters in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh, how many?
The Lord of the Rings trilogy has 2,261,081 letters, with the most common occurrence of E at 12.4%.
That's an obscure Lord of the
Now
Rings
let's convert
fact.
this book to SpaghettiOs.
Oh my god, you absolute madman. How do
Total
you...
cans needed is 8,795, which would cost $12,225. And after you wrote the book, you would have 8,134,609 SpaghettiOs left over.
What the f... Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. There are 8 different races of elves within Middle-earth, and I'm going to use stereotypical family tropes to describe all of them. Let's get the names all out of the way first. There's the Vanyar, the Noldor, the Teleri, the Sindar, the Nondor, the Sylvan, the Falmari, and the Avari. The Vanyar are the elves that stayed in the Undying Lands and never left to go back to Middle-earth. Think of them like the oldest child in the family that went to an Ivy League school and eventually became a doctor or a lawyer, making their parents very proud. The Noldor are the ones that left the Undying Lands to go to Middle-earth and started a bunch of trouble with Sauron's master Morgoth. They are the ones that basically became emo at a very young age and started rebelling. They went to a pretty bad college, but eventually became a leftist. The Teleri are the ones that are not in the Undying Lands, but actually on an island off the coast of the Undying Lands. They are the family member that moved to the Pacific Northwest to try and be closer to the ocean, but never actually moved out of the city of Portland. The Sindar are the elves that never made it to the Undying Lands and actually wound up staying in Middle-earth forever. Think about it like the guy in high school you talked to that had really big dreams but never made it out of his hometown and peaked in high school. The Nondor are a group of elves that also stayed in Middle-earth but were a little bit better off. Some of them were in Lothlorien and Mirkwood. Think about them like the younger sibling that invested in crypto and got really rich all of a sudden. You're not entirely sure how they came into all of their success, but you're really happy for them. This is where it gets a little bit confusing because the Sylvan Elves and the Nondor Elves are kind of the same thing. The Sylvan Elves, though, are the Wood Elves, the ones that Frodo and Sam see when they're in the Fellowship of the Ring walking through the forest. Think of the Sylvan Elves like the Legolas family tree. A lot of them are Sylvan. The Falmari are a little bit like the Teleri, but instead of living on that island, they actually got to the Undying Lands. Think about them like the family member that moved to Portland to be with their older sibling, but realized it wasn't for them and went back to live with mom and dad. Finally, the Avari, or the Dark Elves. Now, this has nothing to do with their skin color. Instead, it has everything to do with their refusal to go to the Undying Lands in the first place. A bunch of the lesser gods from the Undying Lands come over to Middle-earth, and they're like, hey, we have this great paradise in the Undying Lands. Leave Middle-earth, come with us. And the Avari say no. Think about them like the youngest sibling who refuses to eat their vegetables constantly. I hope this was informative. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Hello, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. John Rhys Davies, the guy that plays Gimli, is actually a national treasure. Let me explain. The entire cast did an interview for Empire in 2017, and it's important that it's in 2017, because all of the questions were asked by other cast members, and Orlando Bloom asked John Rhys Davies, what was the last photo you took on your phone? And his response is legendary. Mock me, would you, you piss-taking pointy-eared devil? He knows, gentle reader, that I still use the phone I had in New Zealand in 1999! A Nokia 6310i, which has no camera. I actually have 11 of them. This man. Protect this man at all costs.
In honor of the Olympics, here are the sports I think people from the Lord of the Rings universe would compete in if they did it. Number 1, gotta go Samwise Gamgee, taking home the gold in weightlifting. You carry your friend on your back up a volcano, you can certainly carry a couple 100 pounds over your head for a few seconds. Aragorn is obviously taking home the gold in fencing. Have you seen the way he handles a sword? Legolas of the Woodland Realm, bringing it home for Mirkwood in archery. Boromir would do really well in archery too, except he's the target. Merry and Pippin would do synchronized swimming, but they would come in dead last. Gimli is taking home gold in the 100-meter dash. You know why. Gandalf and Shadowfax are definitely taking home the silver in dressage horse handling. You'll see why in a second. I had some trouble with this one, but I think I'm gonna go trampoline for Frodo. He's quite nimble. You didn't think I'd forget the ladies, would you? Arwen is taking home the gold in gymnastics. Eowyn is taking home the gold in dressage horse handling. So yeah, I told you you'd find out later. Galadriel is too good for sports, so she's not competing. Instead, she's hanging out with Simone Biles and telling her what an icon she is.
Also goes by the name Sharky.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Saruman used to go by the name Sharky. Let me explain. On top of writing the trilogy, J.R.R. Tolkien also has another version of the entire mythos that he wrote called The History of Middle-earth. It's very dense. However, there is a footnote in one of those books that says that Sharky was probably a translation of the Orcish word Sharku, which means old man. You have to think of everything in Middle-earth as like a found and translated version of an actual history. Wait till you find out about the Hobbits' names not actually being their names. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Next question for Don. Up to you.
All right, Don. In The Return of the King film, Aragorn sings during his coronation. What Middle-earth character originally said the words that Aragorn sings? That's a tough one.
Etarelio endore nauntulien siname maruvan arendinia tenambar meta. For out of the sea I am come, and here I shall claim this land for me and my heirs. Said by Isildur's father Elendil as he came to Middle-earth.
Bravo!
I'll accept that.
That was unbelievable. That's going on TikTok in a loop immediately.
I'm so I'm not even impressed. I'm now just judgmental about what's wrong with you people. there's something not. I mean, can you? Can you make a great living doing this? Is it something we should tell our kids they should study?
No.
You know, this is, and my kids are all now, you know, I've got 25 and 19, almost 20. My second kid's almost 20 years old, and then the third one is 16. And I don't know. And then you have world events that just overtake you. So the emotional, you know.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Apparently not everyone knows just how much of a tragic character Elrond is. Let me explain. It deserves its own video, but long story short, Elrond's father is not in the picture. He saved the world, but at a cost, so he's not around. Elrond also loses his twin brother Elros, who chooses to be human when given a choice by the gods. He dies after 500 years. Plus, in that battle we see in the first 10 minutes of Fellowship of the Ring, most of Elrond's friends, like Elendil and Gil-galad, die. Then, his wife is captured and tortured by orcs, and she's so traumatized by what happens that she leaves Middle-earth for the Undying Lands. Then flash forward a few hundred years, and he has to willingly give up his daughter, because his daughter is in love with a human. Perhaps the saddest part, though, is that when we see him leave for the Undying Lands at the end of Return of the King, once he gets to the Undying Lands, he has to explain to his wife that she'll never see her daughter again. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Are you watching the Lord of the Rings TV show, but you're not entirely sure where everybody is? Let me explain. Okay, so, wide map of Middle-earth. You go in here, this is where Theo, Bronwyn, and Arondir the Elf are. These are the Southlands, but it's also in Mordor. It used to not be all ash the way it is in the Third Age in the movies. If we zoom out a little bit, we're going to go here. This is Moria. This is where Durin and Disa are. And if we just go slightly more west, we're going to get to Eregion. This is where Elrond is hanging out with Celebrimbor. Now, if we zoom out a little bit more, we're going to see like this whole area that says Eriador on the map. Somewhere in here is Lindon. It's an elven capital. This is where the guy in yellow is hanging out, Gil-galad. Elrond's here too. And ever so slightly off into the island in the middle of the ocean is Numenor. This is where Galadriel and Halbarad and all of the Elendil and Isildur. That's where all of them are. It's not on this map, obviously. But that's where everyone is. I hope that was helpful. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Where in the Second Age are we? Where is Celeborn? That's the one thing I'm really hung up.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. I can answer that for you.
As far as where we are in the Second Age, we don't actually know, but they are doing a condensed timeline, so all of it is kind of going to happen at once.
As for where Celeborn is, we don't actually know. According to Tolkien's lore, he might actually be just chilling in a forest and waiting for Galadriel to come back, but honestly, he doesn't have that much of a character arc, so I'm not terribly worried about him being introduced to the story. He doesn't do much. Let me know your thoughts about the Rings of Power, and follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Here's everything that I really liked about Season 1 of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. First and foremost, I gotta give it to my guys Bear McCreary and Howard Shore because the music in this show is phenomenal. I'm playing some right now. I also want to give hats off to the cinematographers because, oh my god, this show is beautiful. The landscape shots in this show are unreal. I want to give a lot of kudos to the costume designers as well. I think they did a magnificent job. Now, while some of the overarching story didn't quite work for me, I think the actors did a phenomenal job with what they were given. I want to give specific shoutouts to Robert Aramayo playing Elrond, Sophia Nomvit playing Disa, and Owain Arthur playing Durin. Those three together, their chemistry was wonderful and one of my favorite parts of the show. Also, hats off to Ismael Cruz Cordova. His stunt choreography and his acting together, beautiful stuff. While I know there was some trepidation about there's a Galadriel in armor, I think Morvith Clark did a phenomenal job with what she was given. Her character arc of going from a very strong military and conflict-focused character to the end of episode 8 where she realizes, oh man, that got me into big trouble and I messed up, I thought that was really well done. But I think Leif McPherson, who did the dialects for all of the Elvish, did a great job. Let me know what you really liked about this show and ways that they can improve in Season 2 in the comments section down below, and follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Rings of Power is set between South 1500 to 1700, and they have introduced Isildur, even though he should be born in South 3109.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. There's a very simple explanation for this. The TV show is doing a compressed timeline. The Second Age is 3,441 years long, and most of the major events happen with several hundred years in between them. So what they're doing is they're taking most of the major events and they're kind of condensing them down and acting like it's all happening at once. Personally, I think this is a good idea because if you were to try and do like a 100% lore accurate one according to Tolkien's books, you'd have to recast the humans like every episode or two because they wouldn't be alive for that next major event. They'd be dead. I know some people aren't crazy about this, but from like a marketing perspective, you can't just introduce new characters every episode. That'd get too confusing. Okay, that's it. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Here's everything I hope they do in Season 2 of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. There will be spoilers for Season 1. Number 1, I hope there are fewer mysteries. The whole who is Adar, who is the stranger, where is Sauron, is it Halbrand, is it the stranger, who is everybody? That didn't necessarily work for me, and I think it got drawn out too long over the 8 episodes. Number 2, more characters in one place. I thought there were a few too many storylines in Season 1, and I really want a lot of the characters to start interacting together as a group. Maybe they'll go on a rescue mission to find Celeborn. Number 3, bring back the map. There was like a huge map that we saw in the first 2 or 3 episodes. Bring it back. They stopped using it. I want to see where everybody is and give us a huge wide map. I want to see everything. Number 4, I hope they explore things that haven't yet been explored yet. I think it was a really good idea to bring in the character of Adar being one of the first orcs ever created. Let's continue doing that, exploring concepts that are really only hinted at. I think we're going to see a lot of this with Gandalf and Nori as they go east to explore Rhûn, and we'll see more of that culture. I do also hope we get a little bit more of the Dwarven culture. We saw some of it, I want more of it. Next, show us Isildur. We last saw him, he had a house collapse on him. I know he doesn't die because I've seen the movies and read the books. Show me where he is. Make me care about his character. Please. Things that I think they should keep the same are the music, the cinematography, and the amazing landscape shots, also the actors. I think they all did a great job. Let me know what you hope for in Season 2 of The Rings of Power, and follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Ooh, oh my god, this is that initial trailer shot. Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh. Whoa! Whoa! Oh, I've got goosebumps. It's like Minas Tirith, but a million times bigger.
People have attempted to explain the short hair of the elves in the Rings of Power.
Look, the short-haired elf thing doesn't bother me, but there's a very easy fix for this that they could do. As soon as they introduce Sauron's character in elf form, just give him long hair. And then all the short-haired elves are like, ooh, I want that. Problem solved.
I have tried reading the Silmarillion 4 times and I can't finish it. I have tried so hard. You are not alone. I can help. For the last 6 months, I've been reading and explaining the Silmarillion over on my Twitch channel, then uploading the readings to YouTube. I pause every couple of paragraphs and explain what happens because some of the language is hard, and I take questions from chat. If you want to check it out, all you have to do is click this button in my profile and click on the option that says YouTube. I hope this helps. The Silmarillion is an absolutely incredible book and so worth reading.
Welcome back to another episode of Disappointing ASMR. I don't know who needs to hear this, but nothing in any of Tolkien's published work ever describes the elves as having pointed ears.
She's right.
If you guys found that as disappointing as I did, don't forget to like and subscribe.
But can we talk about how Pippin named his kid Faramir? Of course we can talk about that! Welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Pippin goes on to marry a woman named Diamond, and the two have a son together and name him Faramir. And Faramir winds up marrying Sam and Rosie's daughter, Goldilocks. After many years, Pippin is also given the title of Thane, which is basically like a nobility in the Shire. After many years as a Thane, Pippin steps down and hands the title to his son. He then travels with Merry to Gondor to see Aragorn one last time. Aragorn, Merry, and Pippin are all buried next to each other in Gondor. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Why are the orcs so easy to kill in Lord of the Rings?
Welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. There's 2 reasons for this. Let me explain.
Number 1 is sheer overwhelming numbers. Sauron doesn't really have a great battle plan other than there's more of mine than there are of yours. You can't feasibly train that many soldiers in that little amount of time. But you can still succeed if you overwhelm your opponent with the number of forces that you have. Just look at the Battle of Helm's Deep. The second reason is a little bit more metal, but it was created by Peter Jackson and I think it's really cool. Next time you watch the Lord of the Rings movies, take a look at the armor on the orcs' backs. It isn't there. The idea being that Sauron and Saruman don't give the orcs and Uruk-hai armor on their back because if there was armor on their back, they would feel more comfortable retreating because the arrows would deflect off of it. But they don't want the orcs retreating. Hi, doggy. The orcs always go into battle with the mindset that if you don't win, you're gonna die. An untrained army who knows they can't retreat are gonna make some stupid decisions. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
I was told to blind react to this.
Oh, come on! I need to feel something. Harry, can you tell me something that'll piss me off?
Boba Fett's better than Mondo.
Yep, that'll do it.
He called them the Mines of Moria because in Latin,
Moria means delay. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. This is a case of it probably being true in real life, but also not necessarily what Tolkien originally intended, because he was very obtuse. There is a collection of more than 300 letters that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote, basically explaining The Lord of the Rings to his publisher and readers and fans, and in letter 297, he explains that the word Moria comes from the Elvish word mor, meaning dark or black, and ia, I-A, meaning chasm or abyss or void. Now, did he do this on purpose? I have no idea, but the man was so extra. Probably both are true. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
What? A moth carrying the One Ring?
It could grip it with its sticky legs.
It's not a question of how they grip it, it's a simple question of weight ratio. A 5-ounce moth couldn't carry a 10-ounce ring.
Well, that doesn't matter, we can.
No, listen to me. In order to maintain airspeed velocity, a moth needs to beat its wings 43 times a second, am I right?
Could we please?
Plus, wouldn't the moth get tempted by the One Ring and just rule Middle-earth as their giant moth overlord?
Well, no, moths don't have the brain capacity for such world domination.
Yeah, but it could be carried by a butterfly. Oh, yeah, maybe a butterfly, but not a moth, that's my point. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Then, of course, not all moths are migratory, so they wouldn't all be able to fly that way.
Well, hang on, suppose it was two moths flying together.
Do not let him speak. He will put a spell on us. Ring light attack. Ah! Who are you that can blind us with such light?
I am a wizard.
And who are you?
There are those that call me the White.
Greetings, the White.
Aragorn, I'm pretty sure that's Gandalf. Not now, Blondie. I need to go pretend to be Saruman for 2 minutes for no reason. Hello, Aragorn.
You know my name, sir.
I do. You seek 2 hobbits.
That is our quest. You know much that is known of the White.
Aragorn, I'm actually pretty sure that's Gandalf.
Shut up, Gimli. Have you seen them? The hobbits. That is our quest, to find the hobbits, so any help you could give would be helpful.
Yes, I can help you find the hobbits. To the south there lies a kingdom, the kingdom of Rohan, where the Lord's mind has been overthrown.
The hobbits are in the kingdom. Well, where can we find such kingdom, oh, the White?
Follow me, but only follow if ye be men of valor, for this kingdom is guarded by a pale, sniveling basement dweller who tries to get his friends to invest in crypto.
What about the hobbits?
Oh, for God's sake, it's me, Aragorn. It's me, it's Gandalf.
Gandalf, you're alive.
Yes, I'm alive. The hobbits are with my talking tree friend.
You're what?
Hello, who is it?
I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn, king of Gondor. Whose black gate is this?
This is the black gate of my master, Sauron the Deceiver.
Well, tell your master that we have been charged by my future father-in-law to destroy the One Ring, and if he will let us pass, he may join with us in the days of peace.
Well, I'll ask him, but I don't think he'll be very keen. He's already got one, you see.
What?
He's already got a ring of power. Pip, they must have captured Frodo.
Be quiet. Are you sure?
Oh, yes, it is very nice. I told him we already got one.
Well, can we come up and have a look?
No, of course not. You are human types.
Well, then what are you then?
I am a Númenórean that has fallen prey to the Dark Lord's corruption. Why do you think I have this outrageous accent, you silly king?
Well, if you will not let us in, we shall take the gate by force.
You do not frighten us, you Gondorian pig dogs. Go and kiss a Balrog, you silly person.
Oh. What a strange person. Now look here, my good man.
I do not want to talk to you anymore, you backwater elf-loving hillbilly.
Oh.
I thought in your general direction. Your father was a cave troll, and your mother smelled like Bill the Pony.
What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen Balrog?
What? A Balrog taking the ring to Mordor?
It could hold it in its very sharp claws.
It's not a question about gripping it, it's a question of airspeed velocity.
What?
No, listen, an unladen Balrog travelling with this skeletal wing.
No, my good man, Balrogs can't fly.
Yeah, but they got wings, don't they?
Well, yes, that is generally accepted because of the Peter Jackson movies, but they're mostly vestigial skeleton wings.
Are you telling me that these giant shape-shifting spirits created at the beginning of time, corrupted by Sauron's master Morgoth, gave themselves wings so they could look cool?
Well,
He does kind of have a point.
Not now, Patsy. I'm having an argument. I am Aragorn, king of the Gondorians.
King of the who?
King of the Gondorians.
Who are the Gondorians?
Well, we all are. We're all Gondorians. What about them? That's an elf and a dwarf. Oh, those are my friends, but I am your king. Oh, we don't have a king. Yeah, I thought that line was broken. Well, it has been remade, and I am your lord. But we don't have a lord. What? We're an army of traitorous undead soldiers living in a mountain, do you really? Oh, be quiet. Who does he think he is? I am your king. Well, I didn't vote for you. You don't vote for kings. Well, how do you become king then? Since the day we declared our betrothal, Lady Arwen's love for me bade her forsake her immortality and convinced her father, Lord Elrond of Rivendell, to reforge the sword, Narsil, the blade that was broken, and deliver unto me Anduril, Flame of the West, so that I might take my rightful place on the throne of Gondor. What? Listen, your girlfriend's father handing out a sword is no basis for a system of government. Supreme executive power derives from a mandate of the masses, not some farcical blacksmith ceremony. Be quiet! You can't expect to wield supreme executive power just because some elf wants to have some lovey-dovey interspecies relationship with you. Be quiet! If I went around saying that I was king just because some elf smogged me in the forest a few times, they'd put me away. Shut up! Shut up! Oh, well, now we see the violence inherent in the system. Hey, everybody, come see the violence inherent in the system. Help, help, I'm being repressed. Shut up, bloody ghost! Oh, did you see that? Did you see that? That's what I'm on about.
Hello, I'm Morfydd Clark.
Please welcome to the Late Show, Morfydd Clark.
Hello, I'm Morfydd Clark.
It's voice, so Morfydd.
Morfydd.
Very good.
Oh, come on.
Practice Elvish?
I did. No, that's very much.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. I'm crying in my car. Miranda Otto is coming back to the Lord of the Rings movies! But how is this possible, I hear you ask? Well, there's a new animated movie, this is some of the concept art for it, called The War of the Rohirrim. The movie takes place 138 years before the events of the original trilogy, and focuses on one of the kings of Rohan, Helm Hammerhand. Miranda Otto is coming back as Eowyn to serve as the film's narrator, so she will likely be telling this story to someone. Let me know if you're excited for this new animated movie in the comment section down below, and I'll have more details on this later. Bye.
Did Mary ever get married?
Bachelor. Oh, he's wrong. Hi, Mr. Monahan, Don Marshall here. You actually wore some merchandise my friend Chris and I made, along with the rest of the Hobbits. We raised a bunch of money for charity, thanks for that. But yeah. We're in Appendix C of The Lord of the Rings, and Meriadoc the Magnificent marries a woman named Estella Bolger. Interesting, though, is that Estella didn't appear in the original appendix of The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien added her in the second edition. We also learn that Merry and Estella have one son, that we don't get his name. Once the son is grown into an adult and Estella has passed away, though, both Merry and Pippin travel to Gondor to live with Aragorn and are actually buried next to him in Minas Tirith. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Get out of my tortoise's cage. So, what exactly do Merry and Pippin contribute to the Fellowship? Let me explain. Merry and Pippin to me play a very complementary but pivotal role for most of the rest of the Fellowship, and while they might not have a character arc like someone like Aragorn, they do cause a lot of the plot to happen. Think about it like this. If Merry and Pippin do not go with the Fellowship, then the orcs at the end of the first movie find Frodo and Sam and capture them. But because they found Merry and Pippin instead, they just peace out, letting Frodo and Sam escape. Merry does not go with the Fellowship, then Eowyn faces the Witch King alone, Merry is not there to provide the distraction, and likely Eowyn dies. If Pippin isn't there, there's nobody to tell Gandalf that Faramir is being burned alive by Denethor. Both of those characters survive because of those hobbits. And that's not even mentioning the redemption arc that Boromir, though quickly, goes through in trying to save Merry and Pippin. Even though it's played up a bit more in the movies than the books, the ripple effect that they have on Treebeard and the March of the Ents cannot be understated. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts. Hi there, I don't usually review memes on my exclusively Lord of the Rings channel. I usually save that for other people, but this broke me. This broke me in ways I can't even describe, and now you have to deal with it.
Glad you tuned into Lord of the Rings. Did I know this was a game?
No, but I did. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Released in 1994 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, The Lord of the Rings Volume 1 is a mess. It was made by a company then called Interplay Productions, the same people that brought you the first two Fallout games. You play as Frodo and more or less collect all of the members of the Fellowship, even though Boromir only makes a brief cameo and Legolas can't actually do any damage to the enemies. You may have also noticed that it says Volume 1. They were going to try and make a Volume 2 because this game ends at the Battle of the Mines of Moria. Unfortunately, sales were so bad that they never got a chance to make the second one. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Explain the fandom, poorly and out of context.
So there's this guy who works in landscaping. He manages the grounds of this really old dude in this very remote village. One day, the dude that owns this property just like straight up disappears, and his nephew, well technically it's his cousin, not his they're cousins, but like they're so age difference that like they call him uncle. The younger relation to this old dude takes over the estate. Kind of starts off and you think it's going to be this sort of workplace romance where the landscaper falls in love with the younger guy who takes over the estate, but he's also in love with the barmaid. The subtext is kind of strange at points. Anyway, long story short, the landscaper, the young guy that owned the estate, discovers some cursed jewelry from the older uncle, and they form this polycule and throw that jewelry into a giant volcano in order to kill what they believe might be a god. Oh my god, this is the best day ever. I get to talk about my 3 favorite things: obscure Lord of the Rings facts, current events, and space. Earlier today, NASA announced that the Hubble telescope has discovered its most distant star. It's this one right here, called Eärendil. But what does a star's name have to do with the Lord of the Rings? Well, Eärendil is also the name of Elrond's dad. During the First Age in Middle-earth, Elrond's dad is involved in a war between the elves, humans, and dwarves, and Sauron's master, Morgoth. This whole war started because Morgoth stole 3 of the elves' sacred jewels called the Silmarils that glow very brightly. Very long story short, eventually Elrond's dad winds up in possession of one of these Silmarils. At this point, Middle-earth is so desperate for help that Elrond's mom and dad eventually take a boat and sail from Middle-earth to the Undying Lands where the lesser gods live to beg for their help. And Elrond's dad uses the Silmaril to help light his way to the Undying Lands. The gods do agree to help, but there's a catch. Eärendil can't return to Middle-earth. Or at least he can't step foot on it again. So, the lesser gods give Eärendil's boat the power to fly. So just imagine this, Elrond's dad flying on a boat using the Silmaril as like this guiding beacon for a bunch of eagles flying around him as they go and face a dragon that is the size of a small mountain range. The elves, humans, and dwarves are eventually victorious, but Elrond's dad can't return. So, with the Silmaril in hand, he takes the flying ship and guards the sun and the moon, forever flying through space. NASA, you're a bunch of nerds, and I respect it. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
The Two Towers is a horse girl movie.
She's right. All of you people that tagged me in that asking for my thoughts, she's right. I don't need to supply any evidence. She's right. That means you liked a horse girl movie too, huh? How does that feel? What do you think about that?
Is releasing the $500 Lord of the Rings Rivendell set.
Listen to me right now. You don't need it. Yes, I do. Okay, let's get it.
Shut up, it is not. Yes, it is.
Oh, the Legolas hair debate. Where do we even begin? That specific quote from the video I stitched, which is found in the Fellowship of the Ring chapter The Great River, describes Legolas's head as dark, which has led some people to believe that he might have darker hair. But as is the case with most fanboys on the internet, controversy did arise when The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring came out and Legolas was blonde. Why though? Most of this is conjecture and rumors, but I've also been on Lord of the Rings forums and talked to a lot of people involved in Lord of the Rings for the last 20 years, so I can tell you that it's probably just a case of the fact that Thranduil had blonde hair. In fact, in The Hobbit, he is described as the woodland king with a crown of leaves upon his golden hair. So Thranduil had golden hair, and so Peter Jackson gave Legolas golden hair. Was this the right color to use, though? I don't know. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Let's talk about Legolas's grandfather, and because we don't have official artwork, I'm using Lucius Malfoy from the Harry Potter series as the background. Let me explain. Legolas's grandfather was named Oropher, and he was there with Elrond in the battle against Sauron that we see at the beginning of the first movie. Oropher was a king of Mirkwood and ruled there for about 2,500 years. He originally meant to distance himself from other elves and dwarves, but when he saw Sauron gaining power, he joined Elrond in the fight. However, wood elves didn't quite adapt to open siege battle, and Oropher, along with 2/3 of his army, died. His son, Thranduil, who we see in the Hobbit movies, becomes king of Mirkwood and vows never to get involved in southern wars again, and he retreats into the forest. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts. The definitive answer to, is the Lord of the Rings of Power TV show canon, is no. But it's a little bit more complicated than that, and I can explain further if you want more context. Tolkien only wrote 6 books during his lifetime about Middle-earth. The Hobbit, the original trilogy, and 2 poetry books. Everything else, the Silmarillion, the Book of Unfinished Tales, the Book of Lost Tales, all of that was compiled after his death and published by his son Christopher and the Tolkien estate. Tolkien was often his own worst critic, and he changed his mind constantly during his life. There are 2 different names for the Blue Wizards, 3 different versions of where orcs come from, and at least 4 versions of where Galadriel and Celeborn met. So is it canon? No, and arguably, neither is any of the stuff that was published after his death, because it's just a bunch of notes that, arguably, he may not have even wanted published in the first place, because he changed his mind so much. I'm glad that those things exist, but I'm also glad things like the Rings of Power and the Peter Jackson series, and yes, even the Ralph Bashki animated stuff exists. They are adaptations to a universe that I love.
If Sauron bad, why Sauron hot?
Because hot people get away with stuff way easier. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Fact. Let me explain. In the Second Age, Sauron takes a beautiful form called Anatar. I don't know the official term for it, but Sauron uses a type of warfare known as ignore all the red flags, look how pretty I am. And it works perfectly. Frodo has a great line in the Fellowship of the Ring. He says, I think a servant of the enemy would look fairer, but feel fouler, and he's doing this to describe Aragorn. If Aragorn were really working for Sauron, a servant of the enemy probably wouldn't cover himself in dirt and carry a broken sword and just be all disheveled and...
Facts. Where do humans go when they die? Let me explain. We actually have no idea. That's it. That's the whole... No, I'm kidding. Hang on. The god in Tolkien's universe gave people something called the gift of men. I know, it's a little sexist. Bear with me. When elves pass away, their spirits are bound to the physical world. They literally can't leave. They are reborn and come back into their bodies eventually. But when humans die, they don't come back, and not even the elves or the Valar, the lesser gods in Tolkien's universe, know where they go. Tolkien was a very devout Catholic, so it's likely that his upbringing influenced this part of the story. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Hi, and welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Fact. Today's Obscure Fact is brought to you by the people who support me over on Patreon. They got to vote, and today, we're doing the talking dog of Middle-earth, Huan. So, what's the deal with the goodest boy in Middle-earth? Let me explain. This is Huan, the dog the size of a small horse. He was a companion to one of the lesser gods in the Undying Lands named Orome. But Orome wound up giving his dog over to another elf that was a good friend of his, and it's a good thing they did, because it's part of the reason why they won the war against Sauron's master Morgoth. The elf friend that Huan goes to turns out to be not such a great dude. So Huan eventually runs away and meets the power couple of the First Age. This is Luthien and that is Beren. These two are the ancestors of Aragorn and Arwen. He's a human. She's an elf. So once these three meet, they embark on a quest to capture one of the jewels in Sauron's master Morgoth's crown. The jewel is a sacred jewel called a Silmaril. The Silmarils are kind of like the equivalent of the Hope Diamond, combined with the spiritual significance of like the Ark of the Covenant. And it's because of Huan that these two are even able to be successful. Because he is the dog of one of the lesser gods, he has a bunch of really cool powers, including being able to catch arrows out of midair. He also goes one-on-one with Sauron and wins. Sauron runs away like a scared little baby. So I did mention that he is a talking dog, so how does that work exactly? Well, he can't talk the whole time, but the lesser gods of Middle-earth that are called the Valar gave him the ability to speak 3 times. The first 2 times are directly responsible for helping Beren and Luthien succeed in their quest, but the third and final time Huan spoke was at his death. Huan unfortunately passed away in the First Age, defending Beren and Luthien from a giant werewolf named Karkaroth. Then he came and falling beside Beren, spoke for the 3rd time with words, and he bade Beren farewell before he died. Beren spoke not, but laid his hand upon the head of the hound, and so they parted. We don't deserve dogs, and we certainly do not deserve Huan, but they love us anyway. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts, and if you'd like to vote on next month's topic, come join me on Patreon at the link in my bio. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Fact. You probably don't recognize Howard Shore by his face, but you do recognize him by his music. He wrote the music for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But now, you can recognize Howard Shore by his face, because he has a cameo in The Return of the King. Just look for the guy with the long gray hair in Return of the King when Legolas and Gimli are having the drinking contest. And follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
We finally have definitive proof just how far Frodo and Sam walked from the Shire to Mordor. Yep, that's me. I'm Don Marshall72, the obscure Lord of the Rings facts guy here on TikTok. In that video I said this: Frodo and Sam traveled 1,350 miles from the Shire to Mordor. Only that was wrong, because I measured in straight lines, and Frodo and Sam don't travel in straight lines to get to Mordor. And a few of you suggested that I use rope or wire to measure the exact path. Actually, it was more like a lot of you.
So the first thing I did was grab my map. Yes, it's to scale. Then I traced out the entire path that Frodo and Sam travel from the Shire all the way to Mordor. From there I used a piece of pliable wire and laid it over the path that I drew on my map. Then I took the wire, straightened it out, and measured it.
27.5 inches or 70.5 centimeters.
From there I was good to go, except I ran into another problem. The Fellowship actually travels up a mountain, then back down again. They also travel through the Mines of Moria, and there's no way to tell, based on vertical elevation, how far they traveled there. So at the very least, the result I'm about to tell you is the bare minimum. In my last video I said
1 inch on my tape measurer is 62.5 miles. So I took that number and multiplied it by the number of inches I got from my wire. Don't worry, I converted it to kilometers too.
So in total, Frodo and Sam traveled 1,718.5 miles, or 2,765.6 kilometers. And just to give you an idea of how far that is,
it's like walking from Miami, Florida, all the way up to Maine here in the US, or Vancouver to Ontario, or going from Spain to Poland, or Ecuador to Venezuela. It's almost the entire length of Australia and India.
Thank you all for watching. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
I love answering this question because technically, yes, the Lord of the Rings takes place over the course of 17 years in order to destroy the ring, but not necessarily how you would think. Let me explain. We start here at the Shire, at both the beginning of the books and the movies. But the thing you have to remember about the difference between the book and the movie is that in the book, there's a 17-year time jump between the time Bilbo leaves and Gandalf comes back to tell Frodo that the One Ring is in fact the One Ring. When Frodo finds out it's the One Ring, he leaves the Shire on September 23rd of the year Third Age 3018. It takes him roughly a month to get to Rivendell, where they have the Council of Elrond on October 25th of that same year. But the Fellowship actually spends 2 months in Rivendell preparing for the journey. Once they leave, it takes them 3 weeks to get down here, the Mines of Moria. When they come out the other side of the mountains, they wind up in Lorien, where they spend a month and a half recovering. Once they leave Lorien, they travel down south through this river, which is called the Anduin, to a place called San Gebir. This is where the Fellowship breaks up. This is where the events of the Two Towers take place and things start to speed up. So they meet Gollum in the Emyn Moil here, travel to the Dead Marshes, get to the Black Gate but can't get in, so they go around, are captured by Faramir here, and go to Shelob's Cave here. And all of that only takes roughly 3 weeks. I'm going to try and use my finger for this next part. They go through Shelob's Cave, up the inner part of Mordor to find the road, and here to go to Mount Doom. And the ring is destroyed on March 25th of the year 3019. In total, from the Shire to Mordor, it is 7 months and 2 days, or 6 months exactly from Rivendell to Mount Doom.
So can anyone tell me what underwear hobbits wear?
I can't believe I'm about to admit this publicly. Hi, I'm Don Marshall72, the obscure Lord of the Rings facts guy here on TikTok. I know what kind of underwear hobbits use. Just a quick note, Tolkien doesn't really go into detail about the undergarments people wear in his books, so our details are minimum at best. But that doesn't mean we can't find a real-world equivalent, which is exactly what I did. In a letter to his publisher, Tolkien says that the Shire was inspired by a Warwickshire village in 1879. From there, all I had to do was find out what type of underwear men wore at that time in that place. And it took some digging, but eventually I found these. These are a pair of underwear worn by a man in Great Britain in the late 1800s. These are real, by the way. This particular pair is sitting at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. They are made of wool. So that is what hobbit underwear looks like. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
How do you know about Gandalf?
I read The Hobbit in 1937 when it first came out.
So here's a fun fact. The version of The Hobbit that Bucky read in 1937 probably isn't the same version of the book that you read. Let me explain. So The Hobbit comes out in 1937, and specifically in the chapter Riddles in the Dark, Gollum is a lot less creepy looking and sounding, and he actually gives up the ring willingly when he and Bilbo have that riddles contest. Tolkien didn't originally plan to write Fellowship of the Ring. He sent his publisher a copy of the Silmarillion, which is like his prequel about the First Age and the Second Age. But as soon as Fellowship of the Ring came out, he realized, oh wait, I need to make that ring way more important. So he goes back and republishes The Hobbit with a bunch of changes that make Gollum a little bit more creepy and has Bilbo find the ring rather than have Gollum give it to him. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Alright, TikTok, I want you to stitch this with your favorite historic domino effect.
Oh, I got a good one today, but I need you to stick with me on this one because it's a doozy. This is Leopold Lotschka, the driver for Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Ferdinand's death was the catalyst that started World War I. On the day of his death, Franz Ferdinand and his wife actually evaded another assassination attempt earlier in the day. However, Lotschka took a wrong turn while trying to escape, thus leading to World War I, which leads to J.R.R. Tolkien enlisting to fight, which gives him the inspiration for The Lord of the Rings, which
leads Peter Jackson to adapt them into movies, which leads to Viggo Mortensen breaking 2 of his toes while filming on the set of The Two Towers. Dominoes, y'all.
The ring race just right over. And I'm like, could he have survived that?
As a matter of fact, he does survive that. Welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. So that guy is Harry Goatleaf. Yes, that is his real name that Tolkien gave him. Harry is the gatekeeper at Bree, he lets the hobbits in and eventually gets trampled by the ring wraiths by the door. In the books, there's some sneaking suspicion that this guy might be a servant of Sauron, but the hobbits go on their way. Once the adventure is over, the hobbits actually come back to Bree to discover that Harry, as well as the guy that owned Bill the Pony before the hobbits bought him on their way to Rivendell, are in fact servants of Sauron. So in the books, yes, Harry Goatleaf, the gatekeeper, does survive. Can't speak for the movies, though, because I feel like getting trampled by a door and then a couple of horses would have been very painful. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
But where was Gondor when the Titanic sank?
Australia. Yes, I am filming this at 2 o'clock in the morning, but stay with me.
In order for this to work, we first need to understand the transitive property of math. So because in this case, Rohan is equivalent to Titanic because Bernard Hill, the actor, played both Theoden and the captain of the Titanic, that means we just need to find where John Noble was in 1997. And John Noble's only on-screen credit in 1997 was an Australian TV show called Big Sky. So, Gondor was in Australia when the Westfold fell. Now you know.
While does poor Smeagol's rallies get smaller and smaller precious? Rotten Tony Gaffer sues us. This people.
I loved Lilo and Stitch growing up, and then I saw Jar Jar Binks, so I just combined the two, added the chain smoking sound effect, and yeah, because it's, watch this, you ready? It's Mr. Gonsalves, and then you go a little bit lower. Ow, Mr. Gonsalves, and then you add the chain smoking. Mr. Gonsalves.
Is Gollum just Jar Jar Binks in a minor key?
Yeah.
100%.
Oh my god.
That's exactly what it is.
This is horrifying news.
With the quail sauce. Give me the meat and give it to me raw.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Decoding TV. I'm David Chen.
John Marshall, you did not pick that long to introduce this podcast, David.
But just so you know, that is what I say to Dawn before we begin every episode of this podcast. Give me the meat and give it to me raw. I'm talking about the meat of Tolkien's writing, of course.
Of course.
You okay there, Don?
You broke me. I thought you were going to do like a Gil Galad line.
All right. Anyway.
Ooh, okay, composure.
Hello and welcome to a gender-bent cast of The Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. Let's get the guys out of the way first. Timothy Chalamet is going to play Arwen. Alexander Ludwig from Vikings is going to play Éowyn. He's basically already a Viking. Tom Hiddleston will be playing Galadriel. A recast from the original, Saoirse Ronan as Frodo. And even though she could play any role she wanted perfectly, Florence Pugh as Samwise Gamgee. Okay, speed round time. Gal Gadot is Aragorn. Katie Sackhoff is still Boromir. Zoe Saldana still plays Legolas. Tessa Thompson is still my pick for Gimli. Garfunkel and Oates are still my Merry and Pippin. I pick Lucy Liu for Elrond of Rivendell. Helena Bonham Carter plays Wormtongue, with Rose Leslie Egret from Game of Thrones as Faramir. Meryl Streep will be playing Saruman the White. Changing it up this time, Dame Maggie Smith will be taking over for Gandalf the Grey, while Judi Dench takes over as Denethor. Viola Davis is King Theoden. You tell me she wouldn't kill this role. And I want Denai Guerrero from The Walking Dead to play Éomer. Betty White plays Bilbo Baggins. Let me know who I missed and argue about this in the comments. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Where is the gayest place in Middle-earth? Let me explain. It's not in any of the Dwarven kingdoms, because even though Legolas and Gimli definitely kissed, they've still got a lot culturally to unpack there from homophobia. Within the kingdoms of humans, it's a little bit of a toss-up. Gondor seems like a pretty safe place, but I feel like there's a lot to unpack with Rohan, but I feel like Éowyn might help with that, with all of the biowife energy that Faramir has and all of the bisexuality that Éowyn has. The Shire is pretty gay, what with its cottagecore lesbian aesthetic, but there's a little bit of, like, underlying homophobia, you know what I mean? As far as elven kingdoms go, Rivendell seems pretty heterosexual. Lothlorien has a little bit of bi-wife energy, but I would say the gayest place in Middle-earth is Mirkwood. You look me dead in the eye and you tell me Thranduil wasn't making out with every single...
Who wins in a fight, Gandalf or Dumbledore? Let me break it down for you. Let's just ignore the fact that these two would never actually fight. If they met each other, they would immediately go to a Saturday morning drag brunch sipping mimosas and Bloody Marys. We're approaching the question the wrong way. Let's say Dumbledore is able to unalive Gandalf. Here's what would happen next. Whoa, looks like Dumbledore got the drop on me. Hey, God of this universe, can you bring me back to life again? The god in Tolkien's universe is named Eru, by the way. He would say yes. Here's what Dumbledore would do. Oh, well, I guess that Gandalf got the drop on me. Am I in a train station? Gandalf beats Dumbledore every time, but please fight about this in the comments. It helps with the engagement of this video.
When does Gandalf get his staff back?
In Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. That's actually a movie mistake done by Peter Jackson. In the Fellowship of the Ring movie, Saruman takes Gandalf's staff and sends him up to the top of the tower, and then Gandalf's like jumping off a building and flying off with the eagles, and we don't see him get his staff back. And then he loses that staff again when he fights the Balrog because it falls down. So I would like to posit a bit of a fan theory. There is a magical elf staff maker somewhere in Lothlorien. Because in the books, once Gandalf is reborn, the eagle takes him to Lothlorien and the elves give him the white clothes. And we see Gandalf meet Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli in the Two Towers with the white staff. Where did he get it? Magical Wizard Staff Factory, baby. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts, or fictions, or half-truths, or whatever this was.
Recently I made...
Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Why did Gandalf not use magic in the Two Towers and the Return of the King?
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. There are a couple of reasons for this, but the main one is using magical powers drains Gandalf of a lot of his energy. We especially see this in the book, in the Mines of Moria, and it's also mentioned that when he uses his power, he kind of becomes like a beacon so that enemies of Sauron can kind of detect that magic. Light from the staff when he's saving Faramir in Return of the King might be considered a little bit of magic, but honestly, I think Gandalf really only uses the magic as a last resort. Especially because if he used it too much, people might become dependent on it and expect him to solve all of their problems rather than solving them themselves. Hope that was helpful. Follow for more Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts.
Gandalf is 24,000 years old.
So this guy is kind of right. By the way, hi, my name's Don Marshall72. I'm known as the Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts guy here on TikTok. So strictly speaking, Gandalf is a shapeshifter spirit known as a Maya, created by the god in Tolkien's universe, Eru. He only took the form of an older man so that he could win the trust of everybody in Middle-earth to try and overthrow Sauron. In fact, Gandalf's not even his real name. His real name is Olorin, and he comes from a place called the Undying Lands, which is where the elves go when they're going off on that boat at the end of the third movie. As far as his age goes, Gandalf, the old man we know, is 2,021 years old if my math is right. As for the 24,000 years old, that is a guesstimation in some online forums about when he was created at the beginning of time. We don't actually know when that was, and we don't have a timeline for it. That one is pretty close, though, just based on my own theories. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and follow for more Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts.
Welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Stick with me on this one because it's a doozy and I have a fun little thing at the end. Galadriel's daughter is named Celebrian, and she marries this guy. And then they go on to have 3 kids, and one of them's Arwen, which means Aragorn is related to Galadriel by marriage. Don't look at him, look at me. Now for the fun thing at the end. In a bit of completely, definitely unrelated news, this is Emilia Kenworthy, and she's been cast in The Lord of the Rings of Power Season 2. I'm just saying!
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Don't look at her, look at me. Okay, you can actually look at her. What is Galadriel's story? Let me explain. So Galadriel is an elvish princess, born thousands of years before the original trilogy over in the Undying Lands. The reason she is so powerful and has all this magic is because she was trained by 2 of the literal lesser gods in Tolkien's universe. However, the reason she's in Middle-earth is that Galadriel and most of her kin were banished from the Undying Lands. Galadriel had 3 older brothers, all of whom died fighting Sauron's master Morgoth in the First Age. Also, I can't confirm this, but some of the wikis list her as 6'4", so if you want her to step on, follow for more Obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Is gonna tell me that Galadriel is canonically older than the moon?
Hi, and welcome to my show, Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Yeah, Galadriel's older than the moon. So it went like this. Elves came into existence, and there was only starlight. Then the lesser gods of Tolkien's universe, called the Valar, took the elves from the Middle-earth area over to the other continent called the Undying Lands. However, in the Undying Lands, they use 2 trees named Laurelin and Telperion as a light source. one seeming to act like a really bright sun, the other a little bit darker, more Twilighty style. Their names are Laurelin and Telperion. Wouldn't you know it, Sauron's master Morgoth is the reason they can't have nice things and destroys the trees. So the lesser gods are freaking out like, okay, we need a new light source. So one of them creates a sun and a moon that are also controlled by some of the other lesser gods. Galadriel is one of those elves that lived during that time called the Time of the Two Trees. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. So that's actually not a kid. It's a woman in her mid-20s who's only 3'4". I'll let Billy Boyd explain more.
And the person who doubled for me was a girl from Thailand called Fawn, who is just absolutely beautiful. We got on so well. She was talking about wanting to become a stunt woman because she loved all that stuff, except for horses. She hated being on the horse.
Seeing high fantasy magic, Mike, and I'm into it.
Henceforth, let it be known that the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy directed by Peter Jackson shall now be referred to as High Fantasy Magic Mike. Such nomenclature should only be used in friend groups where they have that one friend that never saw the movie as a child and has just never gotten around to seeing it, even though we know that they'd all love it. For though we may use the hot, sweaty, sexy, dirty men and Orlando Bloom in this movie as an enticement, we know that the fellowship lies truly within our hearts. In Miranda Otto's name we pray, amen.
Why, they didn't just fly the eagles into Mordor.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Let's debunk this. First thing you need to know is that this is a YouTube impression posted by a guy named Asher about a year ago. And it was all done in good fun, but so many people believed it was real, he had to post a video 2 months ago telling people that it was him, not the professor. I get this question so many times that I actually did something. I started a podcast called The Unpredicted Party that explores the consequences of what would have happened if the Fellowship of the Ring took the Eagles to Mordor. It's a lot like the What If series from Marvel if it were in Middle-earth. That sounds cool to you? You can check it out at the link in my bio. It's available in both podcast, audio, and YouTube video forms. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Being a Tolkien lore expert makes you devastatingly hot. I don't make the rules.
Did you know Viggo Mortensen broke 2 of his toes when he kicked that helmet in the Two Towers?
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. You know how there are extended editions of the movies? There are actually extended editions of some of the books. Let me explain. This is J.R.R. Tolkien's book, The Silmarillion. It tells the story of everything that happened in the First and Second Age before The Hobbit. Within this book are 3 shorter stories that kind of stand on their own. So J.R.R. Tolkien's son Christopher compiled all of Tolkien's notes and drafts and made them into longer versions. I do recommend people read The Silmarillion first. However, if you're looking for more Tolkien reading, check out The Fall of Gondolin, The Tale of Beren and Luthien, and Children of Hurin. Thanks, then follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
What happened to real men? What happened to men who were the heads of the household back in the 50s?
No idea and couldn't care less. But hey, did you know that in the Lord of the Rings movie, The Two Towers, Eomer's sword actually falls out of his scabbard in the middle of a shot and no one noticed and they just left it in the movie as a mistake? Here, I'll show you. I got a duck to do this. Okay, see? There it is right there, falling out. Yeah, scooting out. And it's gone. Yeah, I would have shown you the full video, but apparently TikTok doesn't have like a green screen video option anymore. Anyway, follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts. Also, you can be a man in like literally any way you want. I know Aragorn set the bar really high, but like, do your thing.
So happy ending for everyone, except Elrond. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings facts. Apparently not everyone knows just how much of a tragic character Elrond is. Let me explain. It deserves its own video, but long story short, Elrond's father is not in the picture. He saved the world, but at a cost, so he's not around. Elrond also loses his twin brother Elros, who chooses to be human when given a choice by the gods. He dies after 500 years. Plus, in that battle we see in the first 10 minutes of Fellowship of the Ring, most of Elrond's friends, like Elendil and Gil-galad, die. Then, his wife is captured and tortured by orcs, and she's so traumatized by what happens that she leaves Middle-earth for the Undying Lands. Then flash forward a few hundred years, and he has to willingly give up his daughter, because his daughter is in love with a human. Perhaps the saddest part, though, is that when we see him leave for the Undying Lands at the end of Return of the King, once he gets to the Undying Lands, he has to explain to his wife that she'll never see her daughter again. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
It would have not made sense to go like somewhere outside of the Shire and bury the ring deep instead of having Frodo carry it and constantly being followed and like tracked.
Hello and welcome to my specialty, Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Remember this scene, the Council of Elrond, where they're all sitting around in a circle trying to decide what to do with the ring? This topic is actually brought up, but it's only brought up in the book, not the movie. One of the elves at the council suggests that they do something very similar. Why not just take the ring out onto a boat and throw it out into the middle of the ocean? It's Gandalf that kind of puts an end to that idea, and I think this is specifically talking about plate tectonics. So the elf says in the sea it would be safe, and Gandalf says not safe forever. There are many things in the deep waters and seas, and lands may change. He then goes on to say that like putting it somewhere and completely forgetting about it is only delaying the inevitable. Hope that answers your question, and follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Have like crossbow technology, but men and elves
don't. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. So why do the orcs have crossbows, but the other races in Middle-earth don't? Let me explain. The humans, elves, and dwarves could 100% use crossbows. The technology in Middle-earth exists, and I'm sure they've tried. And there are a lot of real-world conversations about using bows versus crossbows, but in the case of the orcs in Middle-earth, Saruman has the orcs use crossbows as kind of a cheap and dirty way to not have to train all of those orcs how to use bows. With a crossbow, you don't need to be as strong because you don't need to hold the string back as much. You also don't have to be nearly as accurate because you can just aim down the sight of a crossbow. Longbow, however, is going to be way quicker to reload and more accurate, but it takes much longer time to learn that kind of skill. So hopefully that answers your question. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Lord of the Rings is not a great movie.
Yes, it is.
There's someone you need to know. His name is Brett Beatty. He's the 4'10" stunt double and scale double for John Rhys Davies, who plays Gimli in The Lord of the Rings. But according to an interview Beatty gave to Polygon, the producers said Beatty was going to be listed in the movie credits as Gimli's double. But a week later, he was told he couldn't be given screen credit because of movie politics. There were also, and I'm quoting here, concerns about preserving the illusion that is Gimli. Beatty says he does not hold a grudge, and this video is not meant for you to get angry at a movie studio. Just remember that
in the middle of the earth, in the land of the Shire, lives a brave little hobbit whom...
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Let's discuss the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. The song was created for a 1968 album called The Two Sides of Leonard Nimoy. He was the guy that played Spock in the original Star Trek. I think the best part about this song is that it was done completely seriously, like Rebecca Black for Friday. But the question remains, why did one of the most popular science fiction actors of all time make a song about a hobbit? It was the 60s. Sometimes you just gotta roll with it. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. What's the craziest difference between the books and the movies? Let me explain. I think a lot of people that have read the book and watched the movies will say it's Faramir's character, because that does change a lot. However, but I think for me the biggest difference is that in the books, the Army of the Dead doesn't actually come to Minas Tirith. In the books, the Army of the Dead can only go so far, and they can't hurt humans, so they only use the Ghost Army to scare the Corsairs off the ships and then use those ships to sail to Minas Tirith. What they do is essentially recruit everybody on their way upriver. I understand why Peter Jackson made the change, but I do kinda wish we had gotten to see Aragorn standing at the front of a fleet of ships yelling down to the people at the riverbanks like, "Grab your boats! We're gonna go save humanity." Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts.
Tell me, who is the best member of the Fellowship of the Ring?
It's Gimli.
It's not Gimli.
It's not Gimli, but it's also not Sam like so many people are saying in the comments. Let me explain.
Think about the character arcs of each of the members of the Fellowship. Merry and Pippin are basically useless without the group, but then they're separated from the group. But then they're basically useless without each other, and then they're separated from each other. But eventually they both learn self-sufficiency and accomplish great deeds. And personally, I don't think Aragorn becomes king without Boromir's motivation and the friendship of Legolas and Gimli. I also don't think that Legolas and Gimli become friends without Aragorn acting as that middleman leader to guide both of them to the same point. Friendship! Can't be Frodo because Frodo wouldn't have gotten very far without Sam, but Sam wouldn't have gotten very far without Frodo. How long do you think Sam would have let Gollum live if Frodo wasn't there? Right? And without Gollum, the quest fails. And Gandalf needs all of the hobbits because without them, he just takes the ring and rules Middle-earth as their wizard overlord. There is no best member of the Fellowship because they are their best selves when they are with each other. And that's the point. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. The do Balrogs have wings debate has a lot of implications on the world as a whole, and it's why we keep talking about it. Let's give a real world equivalent. Let's say you're terrified of spiders. Well, let's say those spiders have wings. Let's say those spiders are the size of your house. Let's say those spiders are on fire all of the time. Let's say those spiders work for Satan! That's why it's important. Follow for more Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Killing a Balrog like Gandalf did is cool, but did you know there have been others that have killed even more Balrogs? Let me explain. Along with Gandalf, there have been 3 other beings that have killed Balrogs. I say beings because Gandalf is basically an angelic demigod, and 2 of them are elves, but the top spot for most Balrogs killed in Tolkien's universe goes to a human named Tuor, featured in one of Tolkien's books, The Fall of Gondolin, that takes place during the First Age. He kills 5 of them. So how does he do it? For the leap of that axe drum, Borleg sang like the rush of eagle's wings in the air and took death as it fell. He killed 5 Balrogs with an axe, and he was a human. It's so cool. Follow for more Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. You can actually see Arwen in a couple of shots in the Battle of Helm's Deep still. I know it's super blurry, but bear with me, okay? There's her in the original cut, and then they edited her out in the movie. And there she is! See? Liv Tyler's in the Battle of Helm's Deep. Follow for more Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Why did Peter Jackson edit out Arwen from the Battle of Helm's Deep? So the actress who plays Arwen, Liv Tyler, had already filmed a bunch of battle scenes in that sequence. And the rumor is, and again, this is unconfirmed, but the rumor is that that information got leaked to a couple of fan sites, and even then, the backlash was, not great. So instead, they replace her with Haldir and relegate Arwen to sitting on a couch crying about Aragorn. That being said, I have mixed feelings about them getting rid of Arwen. On the one hand, I do appreciate Peter Jackson's exploration into the different forms of femininity between Éowyn, Arwen, and Galadriel. And I think having Arwen there might have taken away some of the agency of Éowyn, especially her relationship with Aragorn, as well as Éowyn's eventual sneaking off to fight with the Rohirrim. That being said, I think it would have been a really cool visual if we had seen Arwen jump off the ship with Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli with the army of the dead behind them. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and follow for more Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts.
Thanks for coming with us to Mordor, Legolas. Sam and I really appreciate it. No problem, Frodo. I'm sure Aragorn and Gimli will understand. I feel like we wouldn't have made it all the way to Mordor without you. Oh, stop it. Alright, so what's this plan of yours to destroy the ring? Oh, we were going to tie the ring to one of your arrows and then shoot it into the volcano. What? Yeah, I mean, that shouldn't be too hard. Frodo, how far do you think my bow can shoot? A couple of miles? Not even remotely close, no. Can't you just use, elf magic? Oh my god, we're all gonna die. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. Don't look at him, look at me. Let's talk about Aragorn's backstory. Let me explain. When Aragorn is 2, his father Arathorn is killed by orcs, so his mother takes him to Rivendell to be fostered by Elrond. Elrond changes Aragorn's name to Estelle to keep his identity hidden from Sauron. Aragorn spends a lot of his young adult life learning to become a ranger and keeping Middle-earth safe. He actually fights in battles with Theoden and Denethor's fathers, but he doesn't tell him who he really is. Meanwhile, Elrond eventually does tell Aragorn his true name, and since Aragorn and his daughter Arwen are already in love, Elrond says to Aragorn, "You can marry my daughter, but you have to take your rightful place as the King of Gondor and overthrow Sauron first." Aragorn eventually does both of them, so happy ending for everyone. Except Elrond. Follow for more Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts.
Name a fictional character that is sexy, but is not sexualized once throughout their series.
All of them. All of them.
Remember in Return of the King when the Uruk-hai show up? All of those could have been stopped if they just built a moat.
Oh, but they did have a moat. Hi, I'm Don Marshall, the Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts guy here on TikTok. And the answer is that they already had one in the form of a city on a river. Remember this scene in The Return of the King when the Witch King is like looming over in that city and we see Minas Tirith off in the distance? The city that he is in has a giant river through it. There are essentially 2 sides to that city. When the orcs started attacking in earnest a few weeks before the siege at Minas Tirith, the Gondorians actually destroyed those bridges. Helm's Deep, on the other hand, yeah, I got nothing. There absolutely should have been a moat. Would have saved a lot of trouble. Follow for more Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts.
If I take one more step, it'll be the farthest away from home I've ever been.
Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. So somebody a couple of years ago made a 9.5-hour version where every time Sam does take a step, on screen, it cuts back to him saying that, and it's like 9.5 hours long. So 50,000 likes, and I'll actually watch. I literally just filmed that part, and then I went back to like press play just to see, and it's gone. Hi, welcome to Obscure Lord of the Rings Facts. There are 8 different races of elves within Middle-earth, and I'm going to use stereotypical family tropes to describe all of them. Let's get the names all out of the way first. There's the Vanyar, the Noldor, the Teleri, the Sindar, the Nondor, the Sylvan, the Falmari, and the Avari. The Vanyar are the elves that stayed in the Undying Lands and never left to go back to Middle-earth. Think of them like the oldest child in the family that went to an Ivy League school and eventually became a doctor or a lawyer, making their parents very proud. The Noldor are the ones that left the Undying Lands to go to Middle-earth and started a bunch of trouble with Sauron's master Morgoth. They are the ones that basically became emo at a very young age and started rebelling. They went to a pretty bad college, but eventually became a leftist. The Teleri are the ones that are not in the Undying Lands, but actually on an island off the coast of the Undying Lands. They are the family member that moved to the Pacific Northwest to try and be closer to the ocean, but never actually moved out of the city of Portland. The Sindar are the elves that never made it to the Undying Lands and actually wound up staying in Middle-earth forever. Think about it like the guy in high school you talked to that had really big dreams but never made it out of his hometown and peaked in high school. The Nondor are a group of elves that also stayed in Middle-earth but were a little bit better off. Some of them were in Lothlorien and Mirkwood. Think about them like the younger sibling that invested in crypto and got really rich all of a sudden. You're not entirely sure how they came into all of their success, but you're really happy for them. This is where it gets a little bit confusing because the Sylvan elves and the Nondor elves are kind of the same thing. The Sylvan elves, though, are the wood elves, the ones that Frodo and Sam see when they're in the Fellowship of the Ring walking through the forest. Think of the Sylvan elves like the Legolas family tree. A lot of them are Sylvan. The Falmari are a little bit like the Teleri, but instead of living on that island, they actually got to the Undying Lands. Think about them like the family member that moved to Portland to be with their older sibling, but realized it wasn't for them and went back to live with mom and dad. Finally, the Avari, or the Dark Elves. Now, this has nothing to do with their skin color. Instead, it has everything to do with their refusal to go to the Undying Lands in the first place. A bunch of the lesser gods from the Undying Lands come over to Middle-earth, and they're like, hey, we have this great paradise in the Undying Lands. Leave Middle-earth, come with us. And the Avari say no. Think about them like the youngest sibling who refuses to eat their vegetables constantly. I hope this was informative. Follow for more obscure Lord of the Rings facts. Okay, where was Gondor when the Westfold fell? Pinned down in the city of Osgiliath with absolutely no way to help them. Osgiliath is the city we see Faramir riding to on the horse when Pippin sings. The reason there aren't any more kings of Gondor is because the last king before Aragorn challenged the Witch King to a 1v1 battle and lost. One of Tolkien's stories that takes place in the First Age has a talking dog in it. His name is Huan and he's a very good boy. The young girl that runs into Samwise Gamgee's arms at the end of Return of the King was played by his real-life daughter, Allie. She's 26 now. Viggo Mortensen and Dominic Monaghan have touched tongues. Yeah, I'll show you. Here you go. 4 actors who play the Hobbits used to send nudes to each other. Yes, it's real. No, I'm not kidding. Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones likely doesn't believe that all of these school shootings are fake like he says. He just really likes to make money off of very stupid people. Despite your best attempts, you can't actually hurt my feelings by calling me a shill for enjoying the Lord of the Rings TV show, because the first person to do it was a right-wing YouTuber who had Alex Jones appear on his show, so you'll excuse me if I don't take you fuckheads too seriously. Tolkien never said Legolas had blonde hair! The actor who played James Bond back in the day, Sean Connery, was originally offered the role of Gandalf, but he turned it down because he didn't understand it. Oh, wait. This isn't a book. Russell Crowe and Daniel Day-Lewis were both offered the role of Aragorn, but they both turned it down. Who's a good boy? The band Lady Antebellum changed their name to Lady A in 2020 to avoid any association with the Civil War in their band name. However, there was already a Lady A. It was a 64-year-old black musical artist, and they sued her. Lady A's real name is Anita White, and despite the fact that the lawsuit has finally been dropped, I still think less of Lady Antebellum now. When Gandalf hit his head on the hallway in Hobbiton, that was real. Ian McKellen forgot to lean down. Also, this is my third take because I kept saying door instead of hallway. It's not a concussion, but it doesn't feel good. Aragorn and Arwen have one son and several daughters, but we only get the name of the son. Tolkien didn't give any of the names for the daughters, because despite being a really great and well-written book, there are still some inherently problematic things about sexism present in the trilogy. Gandalf's real name is Olorin, and while also being called Gandalf, he has 11 other nicknames throughout the trilogy. I once wrote a 138-page TTRPG set in Middle-earth that explores the idea of what would have happened if they did take the Eagles to Mordor and turned it into a podcast and YouTube show, but every time I try and promote it, I get less than 1,000 views on those videos. Please go watch or listen at the link in my bio. I love the attention. Here's 3 more minutes of obscure Lord of the Rings facts that you can tell people on your marathon this holiday season. J.R.R. Tolkien's original name for Frodo was Bingo Baggins. Aragorn and Arwen are actually distant cousins. Does a 5 hit? Smaug from The Hobbit was actually a relatively small dragon. The largest dragon's name is Ancalagon the Black. He appears in the First Age and is the size of a small mountain range. By the time he was done filming, Viggo Mortensen had headbutted most of the cast, including the extras. Predominantly black neighborhoods are over-policed, so of course they're going to have a higher rate of crime. And white perpetrators convicted of crimes are undercharged, so of course they'll have lower rates of crime. Frodo and Bilbo don't become immortal when they go to the Undying Lands. Instead, they're given the ability to live in paradise for a short amount of time. They're going to die a little bit faster than they normally would, but at least they get to live in relative comfort. Aragorn lived until he was 210 years old. He spent 120 years with Arwen. Climate change is very real, and it's going to affect a lot of people very quickly. Unfortunately, we're not going to do anything about it until it starts affecting the rich white people that control the world. The One Ring was actually destroyed on March 25th. Tolkien's calendar in the Lord of the Rings universe pretty much lines up with ours. There are actually 2 other instances of an elf and a human falling in love in Middle-earth, but all 4 people involved are related to Aragorn and Arwen in some way. Gandalf's sword is actually supposed to glow blue like Frodo's, because Frodo's sword and Gandalf's sword were both made in the elven city of Gondolin. Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. Oh, there's my fuzzy socks. In one of the early drafts of The Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien was considering having Pippin die. Sauron's original name was gonna be Thu. After cutting Tom Bombadil from the Fellowship of the Ring movie, a lot of Tom's lines are actually given to Treebeard in the extended edition of The Two Towers. Kanye West is a not. It's pretty unclear whether Balrogs have wings or not. Peter Jackson gave them to them in the movie, but Tolkien's writing, it could go either way. I've lost a lot of the compassion I used to have for people that think that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a good person. The Fellowship of the Ring left Rivendell on December 25th. It took them 6 months to get to Mount Doom, 2 of which were spent in Lothlorien, and 2 of which were spent in Rivendell. Elon Musk is not an idiot for buying Twitter, and the $44 billion that he lost isn't going to put a dent in his overall wealth. He wanted to be a spokesperson for the right-wing fascists. That was his goal. After Aragorn has passed away, Gimli and Legolas actually sailed to the Undying Lands. Gimli is the only dwarf to have ever gone there. We've got 2 Treebeard facts today. The character is based on C.S. Lewis. The spoken language of Elvish is based on Welsh. Social media is inevitably an echo chamber, so me saying all of these things that you already agree with to get views is inevitably hypocritical. The only way we're going to save the planet from climate change and address the wealth gap in this country as well as the world is to work together. That means doing the work, and voting isn't enough.